You know, I don't know a ton about geology, but I don't think that's quite how volcanoes work. Oh, we have a Mount Doom sighting. Just that mountain was just nowhere, and then suddenly showed up. Oh, all right. Let's talk about tonight's Rings of Power. This is going to be one where people are like, "Well, I don't really like the show, but that was a good episode because there was action, right? And that's all you need. You just need some orcs getting killed, and you can placate the masses, or at least that's what they're banking on for this. But no, I am not convinced. I am not won over. Far from it. This was a stupid episode tonight. Before we get into the episode, um, I had a moment of revelation earlier this week because for those who are maybe up on entertainment news, the great Louise Fletcher died this last week. If you don't know who Louise Fletcher was, she played Nurse Ratched in the brilliant adaptation of One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest. Uh, and I don't know from anything else, but I love One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest, and she's one of the great villainesses of cinematic history. Her performance is just amazing in that movie. Which, if you haven't seen it, please stop watching Rings of Power and go watch that instead. That's your assignment for this week. But it suddenly occurred to me, like the day after I saw that news that she had passed away, that like there was something almost clicking in my mind, and then it snapped together, and it's that Galadriel is essentially a young Nurse Ratched. like, like seriously, they want her to be the young version of Lord of the Rings Galadriel. She's just a little bit more raw, a little bit, less in control. But no, no, no. She's actually the young version of a psychopath. You can just like tell she's a few years away from being all, she'll restrain her anger, and then she's just medication time. She's got those crazy eyes. So Elf Ratchet, that's what I'm gonna dub her from now on, because that's about where she's at. All right, so this week was all about the big fight, such as it was. And there were four writers this week, I noticed in the opening credits. So they really had some brain power behind this one. Uh, but man, just lots of stupidity. So let's just kind of work through it here. We get new Winor shows up and all of that. But we start with Adar's big brothers and sisters. It's time for us to have a home speech. Which, based on later revelations, I hope that he didn't mean the brothers and sisters thing literally, because if that's the case, we've got some Targaryen nonsense going on with him. Because I guess Adar means father in Elvish, and if I'm reading what I think the show is saying, he literally has been out there banging and producing all of these orcs. So Adar's been a busy guy for the last several centuries. Um, you know, Not quite sure how that works. I kind of like the Peter Jackson version where the orcs are just being dug out of the ground. Better than a mental image of Adar getting busy with whoever he was getting busy with to produce these orcs. But whatever. So he gives this big speech to them, and I'll be honest, I kind of zoned out for it. I was watching the show, so it's not like I wasn't playing my phone, but I just was like, my brain kind of was like, no, this is too dumb. You you just need to check out for a bit. But I did tune in long enough to hear him call them his brothers and sisters, and just they're really doubling down on this. We need a place of our own thing for the orcs. It's just, couldn't they have chosen a dumber angle for their motivations? Oh, but then they get to the fortress, and I just love this moment because they're all ramped up, and then you can tell they have blue balls. Nobody's there to fight. And except for what's his name, elf guy. I don't remember his name again. It's Arender, I think. That's what I'm gonna call him. And so he's there, And suddenly I realize, oh, they're doing a Die Hard. So if you've been watching Rick and Morty this season, you'll understand that reference. They had a whole episode parodying the tendency of shows to do a Die Hard, and we have Arender just in there, doing the one man show. And okay, so they take out a bunch of orcs with this, but I just love the way that this plays out because they have a fortress. They leave for a much less defensible position. Like, you're this tiny little bit of untrained farmers who are going to go fight orcs, and you leave your fortress. And I love the moment where they're in the village and they're like, this is our keep now. It's like, my brother in Christ, your keep is made out of sticks. And they have fire. This is not a great plan. Oh, it's so stupid. They made such a big deal this season about them getting to their fortress, and everybody's rallying there. And it's like, I think the writers realized that they were going for, as I dubbed it last week, the Kmart Helm's Deep, and decided to pull a fast one on us, which, okay, appreciate the opportunity to strike out on your own and not just do Lord of the Rings beat for beat. But they had a fortress, a bad one, but a fortress, and they left for a completely indefensible village. And the results were predictable. So great. It's like, what's the point? What's the point of going to this fortress if you're just gonna run away from it? So we have that, and then we get the first scene with Numenor setting up that they're gonna be going there. And I have to ask, how did they know the exact shithole village that's like, barely the size of your backyard to show up at? They're charging full speed across the country, and they happen to hit on the exact right place. I mean, I guess if this was a better show, we'd just roll with it because that's the type of coincidence you roll with. But the show is not a better show, so we get to nitpick, and that's a dumb moment in the show. But anyway, on the boats, there's a lot of things I loved here. So we have Isildur eating an apple with a horse, and then instead of giving the rest of the apple to the horse, who probably would have appreciated it, he just chucks it over the side. And I love the moment with him and Galadriel, where he's like, I did not leave my home to be humbled. And then she says, well, why did you leave? It's like, oh, maybe this is our Michael Corleone moment where we see the darker side of Isildur. The Michael Corleone thing is, again, if you've missed that, that's a reference to the fact that the showrunners said that Michael Corleone in The Godfather is the inspiration for Isildur's arc in this show. And if you're scratching your head at that because it's the first time you're hearing it, welcome to the club. It makes no sense. But so you're thinking, okay, maybe we're going to see another side of Isildur. And he says, I just need to get away. I didn't go to be humble. Like, you could write so many lines of dialogue that even if they're cheesy, work better than that. Like, why did you leave? I left for glory, I left to make a name for myself, to prove to my father who I could be. Like, there's, we could spitball probably a few dozen responses that, it's not going to win an award. It's not Shakespeare writing, but it's better than, just needed a change of scenery. This Isildur is the dumbest character on this show, I think. And there's some competition for that, so I reserve the right to change that opinion. But at least how I'm feeling right now, Isildur is the dumbest character on this show. And then, so Isildur walks away, and then we get Elendil shows up with Galadriel. And this was a great moment, because Galadriel's like, what happened to your wife? Or what happened to his mother, or whatever it is, which, insensitive question. You haven't seen her. I think you could put two and two together, Galadriel, rather than just dropping this awkward bomb. But hey, Elf Ratchet does not have social sensibilities, so it's to be expected. And then Elendil's answer, he goes into this whole thing about how he's not used to seeing the sun rise over the land because there's just been sea in that direction. And now it's kind of weird that the sun rises over the land. And it's like, there's just this kind of awkward pause after this nonsensical speech he gives. But he's like, she drowned. I started laughing. It's just, it's like the show is trying to give us a moving moment, and it doesn't work so bad. It's laugh out loud funny. All right, so then we have Bronwyn try and give the Sam speech. You know, the Sam speech being the moment at the end of Two Towers of, you know, why are we doing this, Sam? Because there's some good in this world, Mr. Frodo, and it's worth fighting for. And I'm not too proud to admit that I've teared up a time or two at that speech. It's one of the greatest moments in the Lord of the Rings movies. Like, and it's so earned because Frodo, you know, he's at that point where it's like there's just he hasn't even gotten to Mordor yet, and there's just this hell in his eyes, and the innocent hobbit who started at the Fellowship is gone, and it's like, and it's Sam, and it's like, why do we all love Sam? It's because of moments like that, and that he's this simple gardener, but he sees this, and he gives the greatest speech in the trilogy, and then we get the equivalent version here, and it's again this thing of don't invite a comparison that you wind up on the wrong side of, because that speech was so bad and it felt so flat in their version of it. It's like, just do your own thing. Don't remind us of one of the greatest moments in the trilogy with a character who we do not care about, who I barely remember her name. If I didn't have to do these videos, and I don't have to do these videos, they're a pleasure, I would not remember her name. But she gives the Sam speech, and I guess if you found it moving, great. To me, it did not did not land at all. And so we get the first version of this battle, and this is after her and Elf Guy kiss, which, you know, I guess there's been some sexual tension there. You know, they're just trying to do another Beren and Luthien thing, or like Aragorn and Arwen, which again, you know, that works because we like those characters. We don't know anything about these characters. We have no reason to like them, and quite frankly, I don't. So it doesn't work. But I love that they, you know, we have this moment of shock at the end of it where they realize they've been killing their fellow villagers, and everybody's like, "Oh no! How did this happen? Well, where do you think they went? Like, didn't they say they were gonna go over to Adar in the last episode when they all left, or 2 episodes ago, whatever that was? Like, didn't they kind of announce that? Like, you know, we're gonna go to those guys because we think that has a better chance of us winning." And so everybody's just shocked that they wind up killing their villagers. Like, no, I think this was a predictable outcome of what's been happening. And so Adar gets this whole scene where, you know, you knew when Arender, elf guy, whoever he is, was hiding the key, which again, still don't know how he knew it was a key. But you knew Theo was watching him, and sure enough he was. But this was again another doing a Die Hard moment, because like I just kept hearing in my mind Hans Gruber saying, "Where are my detonators?" Like, it's so dumb. It's so dumb. But before that, I forgot one of my favorite moments of this show. So Bronwyn gets the arrow, and then, you know, we have the cliche pull it out, and oh no, is she gonna die scene? But the part I loved was that they have Theo take part in the battlefield surgery. Like, maybe he's not the right guy watching his mom bleed out on a table. Maybe give the kid a moment where he doesn't have to participate in that. But, you know, I'm just envisioning, like, you know, they should have had a scene where he's like, "No, that's my mom, I can't burn her with the log," and they're like, "No, just think of the time she took your Xbox away." Yeah. Okay, so then the Numenorians show up, which again, it's like, how do they know? Doesn't make any sense. Um, and then they're also this. It's another comparison moment because they're trying to recreate, one of the either the Helm's Deep Charge or the Riders of Rohan scene in Minas Tirith, and again, like some of the greatest moments in those movies, and compare that to Galadriel once again on a horse. She managed to keep it together a little bit better this time. Um, it does not compare, and there's like five of them. Where's the budget? Uh, I almost wonder with some of this stuff in the show because there are parts of it that seem so small with the amount of people on scene on screen, and I know they were in New Zealand and they were filming this during COVID. I wonder if they got hit with COVID restrictions. Like, yeah, you can only have 20 horses on the screen at one time because there was I saw on Reddit there somebody had a screenshot of like one of the crowd scenes from Numenor where they had digitally copied several of the same people, so like you see the same extra in the shot 5 times. So, if it was a COVID thing, I'm not going to hold the show against that. It sucks. A lot of shows and movies got hit with that. So, it's funny, but I wouldn't criticize the show for it, at least not compared to the other things. So, when Galadriel rides into the village and she starts doing her Legolas horse nonsense, I honestly thought she'd been shot by an arrow, and I was ready to just stand up and start cheering. It didn't happen. It turns out she was just doing acrobatics again, like Legolas. And let's see, yeah, a few great moments here. So she chases down Adar, and I love when Halberd or whatever his name is uh, gets there. He's like, "You remember me?" And again, it's one of these moments. This is like the Isildur thing from earlier, where you're like, "Oh, okay, we're about to have a moment because, of course, if you say." Do you remember me? As you're holding a sword to his throat or a spear to his throat, it's supposed to be like, I killed your wife, whatever. And Udder's just like, no, no, who are you? No, if it does turn out to be Sauron, I guess you could say maybe this moment works a little bit better in retrospect because of Adar claiming that he killed Sauron. Um, but even if he's not, even if he is Sauron, it doesn't really make any sense because he clearly doesn't look like Sauron. And so, how is Adar going to remember me? It reminds me of the scene in Mad Men where, the one guy's in the elevator with Don Draper, and he says to him, "Oh, I feel so sorry for you when I think about you." And Don Draper says, "I don't think about you at all." It's like, do you remember me? This is a really meaningful moment for me. No, who are you? Did I kill somebody? Just unintentional comedy. Um, and then Otter's little speech about Sauron. Oh, Sauron, after Morgoth was defeated, he tried to unite the world. And something was missing. What? Like the spark wasn't there? He just wasn't into it? Like, you just picture Sauron in his fortress trying to give speeches to rally the troops, and it's just not working. Like, he's trying to be charismatic, but nobody's quite buying it anymore. Like, something was missing. And then Howard just gets crowned instantly. This was another completely unearned moment because nobody knows who he is. Which again, it's like he knew exactly where to go, but I guess they don't know where he is. But then are you the king we've been waiting for? Yes. All right, let's go. Again, they're trying to echo the whole Aragorn Return of the King thing, and it just doesn't work. Like, Aragorn, there's this whole arc, and then he gets there, and Denethor doesn't want to give it up, and they know who he is, but this, is he going to be accepted as the king, and all this stuff, and then Halvard just shows up, like, I'm the king. All right, we're going with that. And then we reveal the Numenorians are going home. Somebody said that. I think Elendil. I forget who said it. Somebody in the village said that. Like, really? This was it? They came all this way. They launched this war fleet, even though it looked like about 20 horses, onto Middle Earth so that they could fight about a dozen orcs in one village that, in the grand scheme of things, doesn't matter. That was the mission? Really? Now, obviously, they're going to stick around based on what happens at the end of this episode, but really? That's all they came for? Unreal. Like, this is the thing, to go back to, that people are, I'm predicting anyway, are going to be like, well, this was a pretty good episode. There was action. Yeah, but stop thinking about the action and just look at what makes sense moment to moment. They're throwing darts at the wall. The writer's room is just completely confused. There's no sense of coherence for what's happening second to second on this show. It's just throw it at the wall, see if it sticks. And if it doesn't, just write a line of dialogue that maybe ignores everything that's happened. And that's that. Okay, so now we find out what the key, which again, how does anyone know it's a key, is for. And it's apparently a Rube Goldberg device. Like this, what was the plan? Because obviously the orcs have been digging these tunnels, and this is why. But, like, okay, so their grand plan was that they knew there was this dam that had a gate that could open, and then that was going to send some water down, and then it was going to flow through the tunnels, randomly cause some explosions, hit some lava, and then make Mount Doom. It's like Mount Doom origin story. Like, what if they dug the tunnel in the wrong place? Like, damn it, didn't you look at the map? I don't know, it's confusing, it's handwritten parchment. You know, like, what if they dug in the wrong place? The whole plan is ruined. And so it's one of these moments where, okay, they're trying to make it look cool on screen, but did anybody stop and say, does this make sense? No. Nobody did. Because the grand scheme, like, what happens if they don't have the tunnel dug to the lava? Then you just have, like, a new lake? That's it? That was the grand scheme where Sauron or whoever built this key mechanism how many hundreds of years ago. They just stop and think about it. And again, like, Tolkien, maybe there's things you can nitpick in the details, but there's so much thought given to all of the details of how Tolkien plots things out. And here it's just like, well, what if there's a key that it looks like a sword? And I'm thinking they're like 5 crown royals deep at this point. And they turn it, and there's some water. Mount Doom, right? Oh, that sounds like a winner. I suppose it's too much to hope for that Galadriel's dead. She just sort of is sitting there staring at this giant smoke cloud coming to her. She's going to survive it, but it's a very dumb moment. 2 episodes left, everyone. No Harfoots tonight. That's disappointing. We gotta assume they're killing somebody in their caravan, stealing their wheels. No Eminem guy in the cult, which I was disappointed by because he was on the banner on Fire TV advertising Rings of Power. So I was expecting to see him. We didn't see him tonight. Elrond didn't show up to remind us that he's friends with Durin. I wish they'd drop that in a little bit more. I'm starting to wonder if Elrond thinks of Durin as a friend. We haven't heard it in 30 seconds. So I gotta imagine we're going to see a lot from them in the next couple of weeks. Hopefully we'll actually have a Sauron appearance at some point. Maybe we'll even have a Ring of Power in this Ring of Power show. I don't know. Are we going to get to those? I don't know. I mean, I gotta assume this thing's gonna have a season 2. It's kind of in that too big to fail category for Amazon. But so far, let's just recap all of the things that have happened through the 6+ hours so far. A village has been attacked by a few orcs. And that's it. Like, that is what has happened. That is the plot. You remember, like, in the Two Towers at the beginning of, in the movie version, at the beginning, when the Urukai are going around burning villages in, like, a montage, and it's about 30 seconds? That's what's happened in Rings of Power so far. Plus the Harfoots. Holy crap. Alright, guys, that's it for tonight. Show's still stupid. Go watch the Rick and Morty episode. I think it was the second one from this season. Go watch One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest. There are much better uses of your time than Rings of Power. But we'll be back next week. 2 more of these. We can make it. We're almost done. I can't imagine. I just can't fathom, if this was the big thing we've been building up to so far, what they have planned for the last 2 episodes. I'm sure it will be a steaming pile of shit, just like the rest of this show. I'm Ben DeVoto. Talk to you later.